Welcome to Breaking the Glass Ceiling podcast. We'll be talking about the challenges we all face when we pursue success. We'll talk to individuals and professionals who give us insight and practical advice on how they broke the glass ceiling and actually reached their goals. Our mission is to give you the tools and resources that help you overcome obstacles and unlock your full potential. Our episodes may get a little edgy, so you may want to buckle up and get ready to break those pesky glass ceilings. Now here's your host, a true professional ready to take the journey with you, Celeste Sierra.
All right, we're here again with my good friend, Darlene Crystal. And so are you going by Darlene Crystal Martinez or Darlene Crystal?
So originally Darlene Crystal Martinez, but life changes,
Yes,
chapters change. So I'm evolving towards Darlene Crystal.
Okay. I like that, actually.
My mother loves it.
I love it.
She's just like, it just has such a great ring. And that's what I named you, was Darlene Crystal. So
I love it. But it's Crystal your middle name?
Crystal's my middle name.
I love it. I think you should just change it to be your actual formal legal last name.
Right? Let's do it. I'm ready.
I love it. So Darlene, my good friend, I am so excited you're here. And thank you for accepting my invite.
Yes.
Because I feel that your story and how much you've grown since I've met you, it's very important to share with everyone that doesn't know your story and doesn't know where you started and where you, I think a lot of people know you now. Like, I meet people that I would have never known that they know of you, but they're like, oh yeah, Darlene, the girl flipper. Which is super cool that you actually, you've promoted your brand and you've actually made it work where actually people know you by the girl flipper.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to that, but tell us all a little bit about you, and then we'll get into details about how you started and all that stuff. But just like introduce yourself to everyone that's watching.
Well, thank you so much. And, it's a joy to sit here with you. We have a long friendship, a long history, and seeing how we're all evolving every day. And it's just like one decision every day on what we want next is like why we're sitting here today. And a little background on myself. I was born in Los Angeles. My mother, oh my gosh, love her so much. She always pushed hard. She was a very strict parent, but I spent a lot of time with my grandmother as well. And my grandmother was always that entrepreneur, working, raised 5 kids by herself, and nothing ever let her put her down. She was always like, what's next? What else can I do to have a better day tomorrow? And that was always her attitude. And I remember seeing her in her later days where she would just get up, she'd get fresh, she'd put on her makeup, she'd put a little barrette in her hair, and she'd be like, let's do this, and that really kind of empowered me through the years of going into what I thought was going to be my forever career, which was corporate America. Right. And in corporate America, I really built myself to be top 1% in that industry, which was compliance and employment law.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah. So coming from corporate, oh my gosh, they used to micromanage us every single minute of our day. Right. And we had to report what was called a day card.
Wow. To
be able to say, what were the accomplishments of the day? Well, I didn't know that having that job was going to really build me to who I am today. It had me think about time from a different perspective and to appreciate every minute of the day.
Right.
And if there's something that my family knows is I have huge standards when it comes to time.
Wow.
When it comes to what do you do with your day? What do you do with time? Because that's something that we just never get back.
So are you one of those that talking about time that, a lot of people say, oh, well, I don't have enough hours in the day.
Yes.
And I always tell people, well, there's 24 hours, so you should have enough.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. Even though I do complain about it sometimes. Sometimes you're just in such a go mode all the time that it does feel like you don't have enough hours. Really but so you're talking about time management, you learn how to manage your time better.
100%. Yeah. And I look at time as really a gift, right?
Right.
So instead of looking at time like I don't have enough, I look at time as every minute is really like a gift to myself on doing the most with it, because you can either choose to be average or be great, right? And for me, it's no matter how many bumps and bruises I've gone through, I have days where I was just like, Darlene, I don't think you're going to make it past this one. I think this is just too hard of a hit, right? And then the next day I wake up and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. All right. I don't care. And I got this. And I just feel like we are built by the decisions that we make. And just because you made a bad decision the day before, or just because you didn't go hard that day before, doesn't mean the next day you can't just go for it, right?
Right.
So to time at home, I'm very much like, so you have an hour before you go do that.
Right.
What can you do in that hour that's going to empower you towards the vision of what you really want?
Wow.
Even if it's only that 1 hour.
That's
right?
powerful. Yeah.
Because it's just like we always talk about, just that 1% better every day.
Yeah, that's huge, because I think we all come from, I don't even know what to call it, but I think majority of people will always complain about time, but there's enough to be able to accomplish your dreams and your goals. But it's having these conversations like what we're talking about right now, that you just have to have that mindset that what are you going to do, like you said, in this hour to accomplish that, on the next hour. I mean, even if you have to take it hour by hour, right?
Yeah. And being effective with, even if you have, there's a lot of people that want to get into what is kind of my new endeavor, right? Because it's my new joy. And I always say, well, even if you're working 40 hours a week, you can put in 1 hour per day.
Yeah.
Right. And as long as that 1 hour is super intentional and effective towards what you envision your life being, then what better gift could you give yourself?
Right.
And so going to corporate America, that had me really think about time and different. I didn't know they were molding me to do this, right? I didn't know they were molding me to become an entrepreneur one day. Remember, I came from corporate America, so I thought my forever was corporate America.
We'll be a 9 to 5.
9 to 5. And I thought, that's it. This is my life. I'm in employment law. I'm good at it. I managed big accounts like Nordstrom, Costco, a lot of huge school districts, USC, UCLA, a lot of huge platforms when it came to really employment law.
Right.
And it was a fun chapter of my life. Although there were times I remember seeing my kids super small and seeing like me working 60-hour work weeks, putting them to bed and then going back to the kitchen to type reports.
Right.
And going to bed at like 2 a.m. and having to do it again at 6:30 a.m. Right. So one day I walk in and I had been training somebody and they said, so Darlene, it's important that we talk because we're going to be letting go the top 1% in our company.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, our budgets have changed. ADA compliance has changed. And in the state of California, there's a huge shift on what we're going to be able to afford to pay. And you have 30 days.
Wow.
So it was pretty impactful because it's all I knew from my early years and going through, school. It's all I knew.
Right.
So I couldn't even imagine the thought of being anything else.
Right.
And it was a scary chapter in my life. I mean, I think I went back home and it was November of 2006.
Wow, you remember that exactly.
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. And just because it was right before the holidays, it was super impactful because it was right before the holidays. And I just remember the next 3 to 6 months being very concerned about what was next.
So is that how long? So you get the news of you're going to be laid off and then you take the next few months to kind of try to figure out life again.
Yeah.
And is that what led you into deciding to go into real estate?
Yeah. So that story, and I'll give you the shortest version possible. I have a friend actually. His name's Mario T. And he had mentioned to me through our friendship that he thought I would be good in real estate. And I was like, I'm in employment law and corporate. Like, what are you talking about? Like real estate, what? Right.
Right.
And he was just like, give it a shot. Why not? So when I was laid off, I did call him and I said, I'm being offered jobs with Nordstrom to telecommute for them. I'm being offered jobs with Costco. Their HR departments wanted me. But I thought if I was going to have a shift, what was really next? Right. Because I finally had really accepted I didn't like my life. Like my life was very go, go, go.
Right.
And just the arena I was in, employment law, I had to fire people almost every day because they were a liability to companies.
Yeah.
So it was a hard place to be because of the heart that I had, right? So I kind of lost who I really was.
Yeah, I don't even see you doing something like that at all.
Exactly.
Like firing people? No way.
No way. So I would find myself in tears in the parking lot with people and I'm like, this is not good.
That is it takes a very special person to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
So I called him and I said, I'm having a hard day. I think this was like 3 months into being unemployed.
Right.
And like not wanting to get out of bed. Right. And being with a non-supportive spouse, right? Just having somebody that just all he would do was say, you just need to get out of bed and go. Right. And I was just going through a mental shift. So I called him and he goes, you know what? I'm going to pick you up and you're going to go with me to show houses. And I was like, what? Where? And I think he was going to San Bernardino and I lived in Rancho Cucamonga.
Okay.
So he goes, we're going to go to San Bernardino and I have this family that wants to see a few homes and you're just going to come with me. And I'm going to bring us some snacks and we're going to consider it a road trip, right? Because I was like, San Bernardino, what the heck? So I got dressed and hopped in his car and he took me on this like adventure. And I saw him show homes and I was just kind of present and just watching, just seeing everything. And we get back in the car and I was like, that's what you do? Like, how life-changing is that? Like you just had them dream about their future home.
Right.
And, I was just like so impacted by that.
Right.
So I went home and on the way back, I was like, I don't know what to do. And he goes, how much money do you have saved? And I said, well, I think in my 401k, I have about maybe $65,000 that I had saved over a decade.
Right.
Never took vacation. Okay. Because I was in a unhealthy like partnership situation. Right. So I was just stacking all this like 401k money.
Right.
And he goes, cash it out. And I said, what? Like, he goes, yeah. You're going to shadow me for 90 days. I'm going to pay you nothing. So you need to be able to take care of your family. And you're going to decide whether you really want to go into real estate.
Wow.
And this was now 2007.
Right.
So I don't know if you know, but the market in 2007 was pretty hot.
Yes, I remember. I was in it.
It was super caliente, right? But it was one of those things where I was like, I was a homeowner, but never touched my mortgage. I was very conservative with everything I did.
Right.
And I was always a very conservative person.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, so there's this hot market. Okay, great. Like, yeah, I'll shadow you. So I ended up shadowing him at an office in Covina where the broker there was a woman. She's a woman, right? So I was like, wow, she's a woman. She's a broker. Like, so I would just go to work and help him. And next thing you know, I was lining up all these clients for him, getting paid nothing. Okay. So I was just like proud to be there. I was like, what do you need? And I just kind of became his assistant informally. And anything he needed for me to run to meet a client, go do an open house.
You were doing it.
I was doing it to support him as setup.
Right, right.
And within 6 months, he looked at me and he goes, you're going to be better than I am one day. And you need to do this. You need to get your license.
Right.
You need to. And within those 6 months, I did get my license. And I decided to take on the endeavor.
So let me ask you, because I think, that story, it's super important for maybe people that are thinking about going from a corporate job, right? From a 9 to 5 and a steady paycheck.
Yeah.
And are unhappy.
Yeah.
And then moving into being self-employed. That's a huge issue. Like, not an issue, but
it's a huge leap.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that, the concerns that come with, like, how am I going to support my family? How am I going to pay my bills? Like, stops people, from taking that step. So what made you, I mean, I know you cashed out your money, but at one point you should have been, you were probably thinking like, what if I run out of money? Like,
sink or swim. Yeah.
But you were just like, I'm going for this.
I was going for it. And that savings that I had at that time, I was like, well, it's there. So I'm going to take care of my responsibility and I'm not going to affect my family, but I'm still going towards the possibilities.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But that cushion changed everything. And I always tell people that are coming into real estate, like, have a cushion.
Right.
Because this business is unforgivable.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't discriminate at all when it comes to hard times and when it comes to a client saying no, because buyers and sellers have the ultimate choice, right? And your livelihood is based on what do they decide.
Yeah.
So if you have that cushion, I think it relaxes you. It gives you peace. Yeah. You get to approach it from a different perspective. And then you really get to envision, like, how am I going to look in this career? like envision your life. Like, what do you wake up like? What is, you know, what's your expression? What's your heart? And all that, knowing that the financial is there and you're good,
And you're okay.
allows you to be so effective and powerful and confident.
So you would give everyone is thinking about that, just kind of save up for a little bit, have
100%
a cushion, and then make the leap.
Yeah. And overall, be prepared to work 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, and be prepared
24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, and be prepared for hard times, and be prepared to be tested, and be prepared to be let down. Like, you just need to be prepared for, I always say, climbing the mountain that you don't want to climb, because climbing that mountain you don't want to climb is pretty important.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you're doing something that makes you happy, even if you're working 24/7, like we always talk about, being an entrepreneur is not, you know, 6 hours, 7 hours or whatever. Like, you know, it feels different.
Really
right?
does.
When you're actually doing something that you love doing. It doesn't even feel like you're actually working 24/7.
No. And I mean, you just said it. I mean, focusing on the word love.
Yeah.
A lot of times in my life, I lost that. You know, I lost love for what I was doing.
Right.
And it had me have not the best sight on what was really happening in front of me. Like, I had all these shortcomings on my chapters because I didn't love what I was doing and I wasn't present in what I was doing. I was just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah.
Right. And it's easy to get caught up in that, to be caught up in just the motions of just checking boxes.
Right.
But not having true sight as to where you're going. And that's why he changed my life. Like, by him saying, you're going to be better than me one day. And you know what? You're an amazing human. And you've got the heart, and you've got you're wired to be in our industry.
Yeah. You had someone that really believed in you.
You really believed in
me.
me.
I think that made a difference too.
It makes a huge difference. So, like, you never know who you're inspiring.
100%.
And you never know who's listening. You never know, why they're listening, because just one word, one sentence, anything can change and make massive change for that person.
That's exactly the reason why we have this. So, while talking to different people in different industries, like, you just never know what we're going to be talking about, what you're going to say out to the world that could change, like, somebody's life completely.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why, I always tell everyone, like, take advantage of social media. Like, you're on social media a lot too, but take advantage of it and just give, what you know, and just give value to everyone, because you just never know what good it's going to do to others. Right.
You never know.
So I want to jump a little bit into, so you've been dubbed the girl flipper in a male dominated industry, because I feel like your industry where you're at right now, I feel it's very male dominated.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
How did you overcome any obstacles did you face, and then tell everyone obviously about Girl Flipper and what's behind it and what you do, and then dig into how did you change that world of, like, everyone thinking that in order to be a flipper, you have to be a man.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of those things that through the course of my real estate career, I sold a lot of homes to investors, right? And through the course of real estate, I was like, that's pretty cool what they do, and found myself helping them a lot when it came to, overall design ideas or picking colors or doing different components of through the years, just kind of supporting them. And I've always been so grateful to work alongside men. Right? Because I think we're just a great balance.
Right.
If you find the right man and the right woman and you work together on something, it's pretty powerful.
100%.
Right? And having just that kind of, that support, it just changes the trajectory of where you're going. So going into flipping, it was one of those things where I had been through 10 years of real estate. I had been through extreme downs through the end of that, going through fast forwarding to through a really bad divorce, which unfortunately changed just my way of thinking. I wasn't paying attention. I just kind of lost sight of who I was.
Right.
And one day I got home after being out a late night, and I said, I'm tired of this. Like, I'm living this life that isn't even me, which is, going through this divorce, being out with friends. And I got home that night and I said, you know what, I'm going to write out my resume and really write out my life, my work life, right? And see, like, what am I searching for? So I wrote it out that night, set it on my nightstand. And that weekend, I got that and I started highlighting all the moments in my resume that really brought me joy.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to become a flipper.
Did you really tell yourself that?
I really did. I said, I'm going to do this. Like, but Darlene, how are you going to do this? You have no money. What? You're like at the bottom. Like you are literally shifting completely who you are. How are you going to do this? And I said, you know what? For the next 2 years, I'm going to work as hard as possible in real estate. And I'm going to stack. I'm going to save. And I'm going to buy my first flip. And I don't care where it's at, but I'm doing this. And so in alliance with a lot of friends in the industry, and having mentors and having people that really just kind of like gave me that it was possible, which were a lot of men. Like a lot of men were like, Darlene, do this. Yeah. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to do this. And I remember saving $42,000 and going to Joseph, who's my honey now, right? And saying,
future hubby,
engaged, yes. But going to him and saying, I have $42,000 and it's all I've got. I want to buy a flip and I'm going to just give it a shot. So I built out a checklist, I built out systems, I did everything that I know to do really because cool. I'm, that corporate person. So I laid it out and had him double, triple check it, make sure, kind of just really talk to me about it. And then I went to my mentor in flipping and I was just like, what do you think? He's like, go for it. And I bought my first flip in Fontana, California.
I was just going to ask you, tell us about your first flip. Because I mean, when you talk to people, we always go into like the high moments and like this and that. But how did you really get started? Now we're really getting into that with like you had a little bit of money. Not like what everyone else thinks that you have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to start a flip. But you started with one in Fontana.
And it wasn't in the greatest neighborhood.
Now I want to do one.
Yeah, see? And that's what, if not you, then who? I always say this.
Yes, exactly.
And it's all about exploring and having the right circle because I had the right circle of friends. And the people that truly cared for me, I went to them and I said, this is what I got. How do I do this? Can you lay out the map? Because remember, I had the resume already.
Right.
I had ran construction crews. I knew interior design. I loved architecture. And I was just like, okay, now it was just about the money, right? So they went ahead and kind of laid out the plan for me. I jump into this deal. Of course, Joseph's like, go for it. Like
that is so
sink
important.
Or swim. Let's do this.
So important.
He was so supportive and I'll never forget how scared I was. But of course I just put on my game face, right? I'm like, I got this. Mm-hmm. And literally 30 days into this project, the garage burns down. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So I get a call from the neighbor and she's like, Darlene, your house is on fire. And I'm like, what?
I would die.
Okay. And I'm like, all my money's in this project. And so Joseph and I rush over and it just happened to be that our property sat on like a county line where 2 massive fire trucks were in front of the house, like hosing it down. Wow. And they were, all I heard was the saw like going into the garage roof. And I'm watching all this happening and I'm just like, am I not supposed to flip houses? Like, what is going on? Like, so you can imagine my thoughts. I was in tears. Yes. I was devastated. I had just lived through 5 years of so much doubt and so many negative things happening in my life. And I was like, how is this happening to me? Like, like this is not possible. And here I am trying to just break through. And now the house is on fire.
Happens. That is so crazy.
So I'm thinking, at the end, I'm very solution-based. I have this thing called 5-minute funerals, and sometimes I have 10-minute funerals.
Oh, yes. I've heard about this
before.
Yes.
So those 5-10-minute funerals are real. Like, I did have a 5-10-minute funeral. I think that day was probably more like 20-minute funeral. But I spent some time, and I was like, all right, solution-based. So then the next day, I get up, I call my homeowner's insurance company, right? Hey, the garage went on fire. I need insurance. Well, guess what? They never checked the box for a detached dwelling on my insurance policy. Didn't know that was possible, right? Because you don't check that box, you have no coverage, right? So they're like, Darlene, it's all on you, babe. Like,
Oh,
Good
my
luck with
goodness.
that. And I'm like, what the heck? So I just remember saying, all right, well, we're going to have to find a way to rebuild. So I had some money, of course, a little bit left. And
Yeah.
I said, all right, time to go work again. Let me go like make another commission,
Yes,
do
yeah.
something. And it was about $12,000 that I was going to need to rebuild the section of that garage.
Right.
So fast forward, made it to the finish line. That was bumps and bruises. Had the worst contractor, guys. Like the most important thing that a lot of people don't know is I've been through a series of contractors
Yes.
that have let me down, that have robbed me, that have done everything you could think of to make sure that I fail.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have intentions behind it. We never know what they are, but I always wonder why contractors just choose to just
This is so
not
true.
do things right.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to learn the hard way. Sold that property, ended up making profit about $24,000.
Not bad.
So not bad because I had
After everything
mine,
you
yeah,
went through.
I still made profit, right? I was like, okay, I'm doing this again. Because again, you are literally, your choices are based on what are you going to do tomorrow?
Right.
Every day is a new day to do something,
Right.
right? So I was like, well, I'm going to do this again. And I'm going to keep working in real estate until I find my next flip.
Right.
And remember, at that time, I had no clue. People always ask me, how do you find your deals? Well, back then, it was door knocking and it was calling. There was not much happening on social media. You didn't have all these amazing wholesale platforms. It was like, it was about truly who you knew. And it was more about putting in the work, right? So I was a workhorse. I mean, I told you my overall experience was like work, work, work. It's all I knew.
Right.
And then seeing my grandmother, the way she worked, it was just wired in me, like working works. And when people say, well, you're so lucky, you're this, well, if you were
It's
to...
not luck.
It's not luck.
Never. It's never luck. It's how much
not.
you work towards it. Yeah.
Exactly. So went to the next property and I found one in Rialto, and it happened to be through my network of real estate. And guess what? Squatters broke in, they vandalized the house, they broke everything.
It's
and it
the
was
flipping
like,
world. I don't think it's as pretty and as glamorous as people see on TV.
oh my gosh, it's not.
Right?
It's
I mean,
not.
sometimes they do show you the ugly part of it, but it's not as glamorous.
It's not as glamorous. So the beauty is, again, partnering with people that really know what you're going to go through and having them help you navigate.
Right.
Which after that happened at the Rialto property, Joseph looked at me and he was like, are you still going to flip? And I'm like, of course I am.
Did he doubt you?
No, he didn't. I don't think he doubted. I think he wanted to do like a temperature check, right? He's like, are you still doing this? Like, and I was like, of course I am. Yes, we're doing this. And
So how many years have you been doing flips right now?
5 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been a little while.
It's been about
already.
5 years. And I would say the first 2-3 years was very like under the radar, kind of like just quietly. Not so much under the radar, but just quietly, just really dabbling in it because I was soul searching. I needed something different. I was burnt out in real estate. I had been through so much in my real estate endeavor. And I was like, I felt pretty hard.
Right.
And I was just like, what do I really want next? I've got this wonderful relationship personally.
Right.
And now I have a true friend. And I just want to change, like, where am I going? Right. And so it was very purposeful. It was one of those things where I said, I'm doing this. And why? Because I really like envisioned myself being a girl flipper.
Right.
Like I saw it. I saw like what it was going to look like. And then I got a call from HGTV.
Okay, so talking about television, I was just going to ask about this big thing with HGTV.
Yes.
So you get a phone call. This is exciting.
Yeah, I get a phone call from HGTV saying, hey, we've been watching you on social media.
Hey, girl flipper.
Hey, girl flipper. So, and going back to girl flipper, it was my mentor, Robert, that was like, I would always say, yeah, I'm a girl flipper. I flip houses and I'm a girl flipper. And he'd be like, I really love that because it does define you.
Yes.
And he goes, stick with that because it really defines who you are.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. So I'm a girl flipper. And I just went with that. So they were following me on social media. And they said, we've been following you. And I thought it was a hox. HGTV
I know. It's like so crazy. Like, what do you mean you're
I'm
following
like,
me?
what do you mean you're following me? Who am I? I'm like, I've done like 4 flips, like, And it was pre-pandemic. They called me and they're like, hey, we want you to audition. So fast forward, I audition. And then they're like, hey, we want Joseph to be on the show with you because he's like been a big source of like making sure that you're like moving forward, right? We want him to be by your side. And I was so happy about that because, you know, having him by my side, he didn't love it so much because he doesn't like the camera so much, but he was just like, let's do this. Totally took him out of his comfort. And if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing. I always say 100%. This. If you are comfortable, be concerned, like get uncomfortable doing something, right?
Yes.
So, we passed auditions and they said, now you need a property to flip. And I was like, however, we don't go into Inland Empire. And I was like,
fabulous.
Fabulous. And I think at that point I had maybe, I don't know, $100 and something thousand.
Okay.
So I was just like, you know, oh my gosh, okay, you know, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And I said, great. Yeah, I'll get a flip. Again, remember, never think about anything like, I don't have enough. I can't do this. My resume doesn't.
I live by this.
Right? My resume doesn't project what I need to be present for this position. 100%. You need to focus on it like as if it's already yours.
Yes. Yes.
Because it is.
Yes.
Because the only thing you need to do is believe in yourself and like see it. Right?
100%.
So at that moment, I was like already envisioning, I had enough money for my next flip. Where was it going to be? I had no clue. But I was already envisioning that I would find a property.
And I was in the IE.
Not in the IE. LA County. It had to be LA County OC. And I was going to be on the show with Joe. So I start making calls, start putting feelers out there to my circle. And again, the power of your circle, right? The power of being around the right people.
Whoever you surround yourself with.
Whoever you surround yourself with. And next thing you know, I find a project and it happens to be in San Pedro. It's a $1.4 million house. And I start making calls to anybody that, you know, had money. And I was just like, hi, help. Hi, let's do this. How much do you believe in Girl Flipper? This is where you're going to show me.
You should have called me. I grew up in San Pedro. See? I would have invested in San Pedro.
Done right there. See? And so the power of our circle.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, like this is going to happen. So I get this oceanfront house for $1.4 million, 1930 built, and the house is falling, literally. Like it's like shifting. And I'm like, okay, let's do this.
Yes.
And next thing you know, we're in it. We're about to film our first show, like first, you know, first filming. The first filming day was about to happen. And our neighbor comes out screaming all kinds of remarks at our production team. And Joe and I hadn't arrived yet. So the production team calls us and says, you know, the neighbor is screaming all these remarks at us. We're cutting the project for today. And we're going to go back to the producers and see if they want to continue. Because if we have to work through this project with this neighbor, we never know how impactful it's going to be to the show and the amount of money invested. Right? Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, I just bought this property
for this.
And I push myself outside of every limit for this. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And talk about constantly being tested, right? And I was sad. It was hard. The next day I get a call and they're like, we're not pushing through on the show.
Oh,
like,
wow.
We're sorry, Darlene. Like, it's just too much of a risk. And we can't have the team, you know, go through any of this.
Wow.
So next thing you know, I'm in this 5-month project with the San Pedro home.
Yeah.
I build out my dream there of flipping an over $1 million house. And that property netted me over $300,000.
Nice.
Yeah.
That house was beautiful.
Beautiful. I mean, it was gorgeous.
The views.
And the view, everything. And you know, it's funny because the person who bought the house, we're still in touch, and you know, he'll send me pictures of what to put here and what to put there. But the power of taking risk on myself that moment and just having the right circle, it just changed everything, because that's when I officially became Girl Flipper and had my own money.
Right.
Like, it was like I had $500,000 and I was like, this is real, babe.
Right.
This is real. You did this. This is happening. And I always wanted to be in luxury, Celeste. I always wanted to be in luxury. But my career was based in the like Downey Norwalk area.
Right.
So I didn't they have luxury areas, but I just didn't have access to that.
Right.
So I would always say, oh, if I could just get one luxury home, that'd be so exciting. And what that San Pedro home really did for my life is like, it got me so comfortable in luxury.
Right.
And now I can say probably about 50 to 60% of the homes that I flip are luxury.
Yeah. So you have to take the first step like you said, being uncomfortable, but taking that step, feeling uncomfortable, and then it'll push you towards like the real dream. Because now you were probably scared about doing it, but then you did it. Yeah. And then now that's basically all you were doing.
And now it's
I don't even see you in the IE anymore.
In fact, it's a rare thing. I don't think I work in the IE respectfully. Like I just, I think I'm just so detail oriented and I love the vision, but you just never know like where you're going unless you allow yourself to go there.
Yeah.
You just need to allow yourself and trust you, believe in you. Because if it were up to my past, if it were up to all my failures, I would never be here today. If 100%. It was up to that.
Yeah.
If I based my life on my past, I feel like my past, I was meant to live because it's how I became who I am today.
Right.
And when I was in that, I was like, that's it, I'm done. Like my past is defining me. Right. Who's going to take me? What? Right. I'm no good. Exactly. Like, look at me. Like I'm a big bunch of failure. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And at the end, I started to realize as I was shifting my mindset was that I'm a person of faith, right? So God for me became my true best friend. Mm-hmm. There were times I'd be in the shower and just get on my knees and cry and just say, just be my compass. Just guide me. This has nothing to do with my friends. It has nothing to do with my circle. It has to do with my relationship with you.
Exactly.
And I need you to just guide me and I'm going to trust you. And I started to see that everything I had lived in my past was necessary to build the new person that Darlene was becoming. And I started to change and really think about how my favorite word and how I wanted to rewire myself was to be a grateful person.
Right.
And when I started to think with gratitude for every single minute and every single day and every single relationship, it just started to like give me this peace that wasn't defined by money.
Right. We've talked about this in the past, yeah.
And I was just like, wow,
So it's coming from being grateful and learning from your past experiences and not necessarily crying over what you've gone through or the struggles, but really learning from them to help you get to who you really are supposed to be and the person that you're supposed to meant to be. Mm-hmm. You talked about your circle, and I want to just touch briefly on that because I always talk about it, that the people that you surround yourself with, it's so important, right? So can you speak on the importance of networking and friendships and just those that surround you and how important they are for your business, number one, but also for your personal life and your personal growth?
Yeah, so friendships are everything, and having people that are truly cheering you on is the most important thing. And, it's hard to tell.
It is very hard to tell, yes.
You never know, in our world today, who's being genuine, who's not. Yeah. And, I've come to decide this now, that it doesn't matter what they're being. It doesn't matter who they're being.
Right.
What matters is that you represent who you are in the best way possible, and you don't change who you are based on what you think your circle is being. Right. So friendships and close friendships and having the right friendships and being respectful of my time and being okay with saying no and understanding the circle I want to be in has really built who I am today.
Yes.
And you just feel it when somebody is like being genuine.
Yeah. And they want the best for you.
And they want, so empowering others, but always start with you. Like, be kind.
Yeah.
Be considerate. Mm-hmm. Listen to others, hear them, be present.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in our world today, it's all about us.
Yes.
Versus how about changing it and when you're with somebody, being present in what they need.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
And at our home, that's what I'm always saying. I'm like, how can I help you? What can I do for you? Like, constantly. Because if we come from a place of contribution and we come from a place of caring about what the other person's going through, then it's just pretty amazing what it does to just your overall energy.
Yeah, 100%.
You feel good.
Yeah. And so last, and I always have to ask everyone this, just because we're trying to empower others, right? And give them the tools for them to achieve their dreams like you did. So what would your words be of encouragement to those women, men, whoever, that they have the dream, they know what they want to do, but they're just afraid? What would you tell them?
I would say believe in yourself and know what you really want and build out and write out why you want to be that.
Yeah.
And have clarity, but you need to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to do that for you. So the first step for anything, no matter what you want to accomplish, is really believing in yourself, having a plan, having clarity, and really seeing yourself in it.
Yeah.
And lastly, most importantly, putting in the work. It's going to be sweat. It's going to be tears. Nothing amazing comes easily.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't.
And it doesn't happen overnight either.
It doesn't happen overnight. And the Girl Flipper team knows this. I'm constantly saying this. You know, I built an amazing team.
I know
now.
you have a team now.
Yes, they're so exciting.
And they're all girls.
And they're all girls. And we're building a Girl Flipper community. And it's funny, you know, sometimes we have guys that come to our events and we're so happy because we're like, we have a guy flipper. Because I just love the unity of it all, right? But empowering them to say, like, you are a product of each decision you make.
Yes.
And it's okay to maybe make a wrong one sometimes, but just correct and shift.
And it'll happen,
And it'll happen.
you have to move forward.
You just have to believe in yourself.
100%.
No matter what. And that is it.
I want to say I am like so, you know, I've seen you grow so much in the last few years. And I remember when we first became friends and you were doing real estate. Yes. And the growth, it's crazy. Honestly, like I've seen you, you know, when you were doing real estate, and I just felt like now seeing from right now, right? And thinking back when we would talk and you doing real estate, like I felt like there was something missing. Yeah. Like you just had something. And now I feel like you're like complete, like you found your calling 100% because you're amazing. I mean, I've seen your projects. Yeah. You're amazing at what you do. Everything. I mean, not just obviously construction or whatever, but like your touches and when you stage homes, and it's just like beautiful. So I really feel like this is 100% your calling. I'm really excited to see like all your meetups that you're doing. And then you know, it's really hard sometimes to find people that are willing to share their knowledge. Because they feel like, well, no, you know, because I don't want everyone else to do what I'm doing, right? Yeah. But you come from a completely different perspective and different point of view because you're sharing. You've put events where you actually share everything about putting deals together, how-tos, everything. Yeah. So I think that speaks volumes of you and who you are as a person and as a businesswoman. And I'm really excited for you, and I can't wait to see the next $5 million home you're going to flip. I want to throw an event there.
Yeah. And, you know, thank you for that. And that means a lot, Celeste. You know, people that have known me on the journey, it means a lot. And to know that I'm finally coming towards a place of being complete. Yes. And, you know, seeing what you've accomplished and seeing what we're all accomplishing together. And it's all brick by brick. It's all believing in ourselves. And it's all like just saying, if not you, then who? I constantly say that because I really believe it.
100%.
And it's one of those things, but now we're building the Girl Flipper community, and it really is about empowering women to just think different.
Yes.
And to know that you can. You just need to make slight changes. They're not massive changes. It's slight changes to how you think and what you do, and you start inching towards what you really want to be.
Exactly.
And that's the most exciting part about building
100%.
A future. So I'm so grateful for this. This is beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here again. And I can't wait when this is all finished and we put it out there. Well, we're going to tag you so everyone can watch this and get all this like nuggets and all the information that you share with us. So thank you so much. And I really hope that someone out there can benefit from this and the information that you're putting out there.
Sounds great.
So thank you, Girl Flipper.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Breaking the Glass Ceiling. We hope you feel empowered to break free from limitations that hold you back, so achieving your dreams is now possible. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of our inspiring conversations. But before we go, we want to remind you that you are capable of greatness. And by joining us next time, you can start shaking off that self-talk so you can move forward. That's one step closer to breaking the glass ceiling.